There's reports coming out today that radio and TV host Ed Schultz has died at age 64. He was found at his home, his Detroit Lakes home. Just looking at this report, Ed Schultz, people I'm sure might be familiar. He's a veteran radio broadcaster and former show host. He did work for MSNBC earlier, and it's interesting, this article just giving the few details that we know about his death. They do point out that Ed Schultz was a Bernie Sanders supporter. He was fired, he believes, for his support of Sanders, and then he went on to work for RT, the Washinton Post. I will look at an article from them. Of course, they are backed by the CIA. Their owner, Jeff Bezos, set up a $600 million cloud computing contract with the CIA before buying the Washington Post. Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta, works for the Washington Post. I will look at the article, I'll pull a couple quotes from the article afterward, but basically they wrote an article late in 2016 after he left this mainstream organization going to RT. They basically criticized him, almost suggesting that he was a Russian puppet for his criticism of Hillary Clinton and her collusion with the media. He helped expose Clinton's collusion with the media. The Washington Post saying, well, he used to be basically painting a picture, suggesting that he used to be a reasonable mainstream reporter that supported ideas from Hillary Clinton. He criticized Donald Trump regularly, and then suggesting that he switched. After criticizing Clinton, became a Russian puppet working for RT. I'll pull a few quotes that they gave, but it was a real smear job that they gave on Ed Schultz after he was fired from this news outlet he was working for. He worked there between 2009 and 2015. Recent interview, the left-wing host, he did support Bernie Sanders during the 2016 presidential election, talked about how he believes he was fired over his support. He said that he gave this quote saying, "I think that the Clintons were connected to NBC's Andy Lack, connected at the hip." Schultz said, quote, "I think that they didn't want anybody in their prime time or anywhere in their lineup supporting Bernie Sanders. I think that they were in the tank for Hillary Clinton, and I think that it was managed. And 45 days later, I was out at MSNBC." So obviously he believes that he may have been fired for criticizing Clinton or pointing out that the media was in the tank for Hillary Clinton, as he pointed out. I'm sure many of my viewers might not agree with all of Ed Schultz or his personal opinions or his support of Sanders or all of that, but it is unfortunate that you had somewhat mainstream media host that was basically pushed out at MSNBC for calling out Hillary Clinton, one of the few people that was pointing out that obvious collusion between Clinton and the mainstream media. He ended up leaving, became an outspoken critic. He was originally an outspoken critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin, went on to join RT America in January 2016, working for the Kremlin News Network. He said was the most freedom I've ever had. Declared that in the spring, saying that I'm now doing real journalism. It's not opinion. He said there was more oversight and more direction given to me on content at MSNBC than there ever has been here at RT. So he said that saying that he was very controlled in what he was allowed to say or not say at MSNBC. Finally, they say during a surprise appearance at the 2017 Conservative Political Action Conference, Schultz offered up his views on Donald Trump and his presidential campaign. They gave a final quote from Schultz where he talked about Trump's campaign. He said Trump went to Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and he took down the progressive firewall because he talked to the American people about a deal. The veteran news host said when he asked about Trump's appeal on trade, quote, I went into these towns and I saw the anguish and hurt, he continued. For years, the American heartland thought the Democrats and the progressive movement were their best friend, but guess what? The jobs left anyways. Donald Trump came in and promised them a deal. So Schultz was more of a mainstream Democrat supporter, moved away from that in more recent years. Washington Post, as I said, did kind of a hit job on him after he started criticizing Clinton. He was a harsh critic of Obama, relatively harsh critic for an MSNBC host, even while working there. But he really ramped it up and escalated his criticism of Clinton as he saw the obvious bias at his own station and throughout the media. You can just look at that Washington Post piece again. So Washington Post, keep in mind, obviously they are kind of in the tank themselves for Clinton. They've hired Clinton's former campaign manager, John Podesta, to work for them. They have this contract with the deep state. Their owner has that $600 million CIA contract. They said of Schultz, I think, trying to smear him. They said RT America has a broad distribution via the internet, but virtually no presence on cable. They claimed this year that they had a weekly TV audience of more than 8 million in the United States. Washington Post has a questionable figure given its limited cable carriage. Schultz, who once said on MSNBC that Putin is crippling his country, now has a Russian-friendly, that's what the Washington Post is saying, or perhaps American skeptical. That is, I think, a kind of wormy way, in my opinion, of the Washington Post saying anti-American, basically calling Schultz anti-American in sort of a wormy way without coming right out and saying it. American skeptical, they say his new perspective viewpoint on any number of issues on his RT program. So do most of the guests he interviews. Talk about not agreeing with his opinion on the Syria crisis. Also, his mention of the hypocrisy, I guess, of the Clinton campaign in calling out fake online news from alleged Russian sources. Schultz responding to this, they give the quote from Schultz where he said, if they, the American media, want to go after fake news, they can start with the Clinton campaign and their accusations about Russian involvement, he said on his broadcast in September. So Washington Post, again, kind of saying that, Ed Schultz is now a fringe figure, a puppet of the Russian government and anti-American. They are kind of say in their own way. Something of a hit piece from the Washington Post that was in late 2016. So he's officially, or it's been announced that he has died from natural causes, but they have not given really a specific cause of death. They've just said vaguely it's being called natural causes at this time. Some people asking questions, just looking at some forum posts, they say Ed Schultz publicly reveals for the first time the media's collusion with the Hillary campaign, and how the corporate media also suppressed any news about the Sanders campaign. He mysteriously dies a couple months later. Official reports saying natural causes. There's not very much information at this time, so we'll have to see what more information comes out. I'll follow up as new info comes out. If you could subscribe to the channel, I will follow up. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and I will follow up soon. Thanks again.